3, okay on my own, but I sure would like to share it with a partner.
Yeah.
Okay. 4, frustrating and unsatisfying. I wish I knew how to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to vote more than once. In fact, you may feel you need to. Number 5, what sex life?
Ouch.
This is giving me a lot of really good information. If you don't mind moving up, since we're such an intimate group. And number 6, I think I remember sex. All right, let me find out one more thing here then. Let's see how old you are. Who's over 50? For God's sake. Keep your hand up if you're over 60. Keep your hand up if you're over 70. All righty, good. Me too. 71.
You gonna stop?
You can stop.
His arm got tired.
We'll never get to your age, David. Yeah, well, I'm 71, and if I've learned something about sex at our age, and I have, we're never too old to have a richly satisfying sex life. Joycelyn Elders, the former Surgeon General of the United States, said, "We are sexual beings from birth to death." She said, at age 95, I will still be a sexual being. She's in her 80s somewhere now. Yeah. And she said at one time, I heard her speak, it was really wonderful. She said, anyone who doubts that infants are sexual has never changed a baby boy's diaper. We don't have to give that up. I mean, look at us. When we came of age sexually, we were battling our upbringing, right? We were battling the restrictions we'd been taught. My sex education consisted of, here's how babies are made, and here's why you shouldn't do it. That was it. Nothing about pleasure, nothing about arousal, nothing about orgasm, nothing about how to have an orgasm. None of that was part of my sex education. How many of you had a similar sex education to mine? Yeah, see? But we overcame that at some point, right? We became the sexual revolution. We were the foot soldiers in the sexual revolution. But now that we're having hormonal challenges, medical challenges, medication challenges, relationship challenges, it sometimes feels easy to just let that all be a part of our past. It may be easy, but it's not preferable. For one thing, did you know there are 33 health reasons why sex is good for you? And by sex, what I mean, I'm not talking about just partner sex. I'm not talking about just intercourse. I'm talking about anything that arouses you sexually and maybe brings you to orgasm. And if you do that at least once a week, partnered, unpartnered, doesn't matter. It's the physiological thing that needs to happen. Once a week at least, you're going to get 33 health benefits. I'm going to read you some. I'm not going to list all 33 because I know a list of 33, anything, including about sex, would put you to sleep. But let me give you a few of them. And if you didn't know some of the ones I read, go, I didn't know that. And I'll read your body language now. Okay, reduces stress. Well, you knew that. Enhances mood. Strengthens the immune system.
Didn't know that.
Didn't know that. Helps the sex organs healthy. Helps with sleep. Helps prevent vaginal atrophy. Relieves headaches and other body aches. So, see, when it's no longer, I'm sorry, honey, I have a headache. It's, oh, come here, honey, I have a headache. Let's just think of that differently. Relieves depression. There have been studies on that sex relieves depression. Reduces the risk of heart disease, reduces the risk of prostate cancer, relieves chronic pain, strengthens the pelvic floor to prevent incontinence. Oh, now I have your attention. In fact, I was doing a presentation once, and there was this woman. She was sitting here like this, like, okay, someone dragged me here, but don't expect me to enjoy it. And in fact, I'm going to try really hard not to listen. But then when I got to the incontinence part, she goes, what? Now she's listening. Yeah, it does. It increases blood flow to the brain. We can use some of that. Yeah, makes you happier, makes you feel really good. That's just a few of the health reasons. So, yeah, right, we really need to be convinced to have sex. Well, maybe so, especially if we have medical constraints or relationship problems. The relationship is sexually stale, or maybe there is no relationship right now. So what do we have to do about it if there is no relationship right now? We have to, so to speak, take matters into our own hands. And I will be talking about sex toys some tonight too. I gave a talk at Good Vibrations last night. That was fun. They put me in the room that was called the Museum of Antique Vibrators. I thought, well, I'm going to fit right in here. I'm an antique and I love vibrators. But everything that I say tonight and everything I say in the book for how to have better sex and how to have richer, more satisfying, more sizzling sex, all that is applicable whether you're solo or partnered, whatever gender, whatever orientation, whatever else I might not be thinking to say, including this, including everything. And before I go on, I want to know this. How many of you are single and open to dating and mating? Okay. How many of you are partnered and open to, no, I'm not going to ask business. So if I'm promising you that with some information, creativity, and a sense of humor, you can have a richly satisfying sex life, does that mean that sex at our age can be the same as it was in our 20s and 30s? No, but that's okay. No, it's not going to be. We don't have the hormonal rush. We have all these medical issues. We have, if not, we at least have a slowing down of our sex drive, a slowing down of our arousal, slowing down of getting to orgasm. The orgasms aren't as strong. So what the heck am I saying can be richly satisfying? Because we can look at what it is and how to make it the best it can be. And here are some things that are going to make your sex life better. Guaranteed. 1, whether you're going to have sex with a partner or with yourself or with a well-chosen, well-placed sex toy, exercise right beforehand. Why? It increases blood flow. You notice that after you exercise, you're feeling more vibrant, you're feeling more energetic, your brain is working better, your joints are lubricated, you're feeling better in your body. Well, that's the increased blood flow, and that's going to your genitals too. And one of the reasons that we have such slow arousal and slow orgasm, difficulty with erections, difficulty with arousal any gender, is that the blood flow is reduced. It's not going as fast, there isn't as much of it. So whatever we can do to bring the blood flow to the genitals is going to help. Hence, exercise before. Don't eat before. The idea of having sex after a romantic meal, that's done. That's gone. Say bye-bye to having sex after a meal, romantic or not. Have sex before you eat, not after. Because when you eat, where does the blood flow go? To the digestive system. You don't have enough of it going on to share it with the digestive system. So have sex when you're hungry. See, you got 2 tips already. How many of you learned something tonight you can put into action? Okay, I'll ask that ever so often, so I want to see all the hands eventually. Okay, so those are 2 things that are guaranteed to improve things. Now, it may not be the only thing to improve things. You may need some more. Sometimes you may need more self-help strategies, and sometimes it isn't something that you can take care of by yourself. So I want to talk to you a little about talking to your doctor. How many of you have tried to talk to your doctor about a sexual concern since the age of 50? Good for you. You want to share how receptive the doctor was? I know, she said, wait, if I'm the only one, I wouldn't have raised my hand.
My male doctor was completely unsympathetic to any problems, you know, I couldn't have sex because it hurt so much. And he was like, well, you didn't even blink an eye.
Just
you know.
dismiss
He
it,
said,
huh?
just take the cream, and oh yeah, anti-itch cream would be good.
Oh, God.
And I said, I mean, so that was really, so I switched to a woman doctor, and it was completely different.
Good.
Yeah.
It isn't that it's male versus female often. It's just doctors who, okay, let me get, I've got to tell you some things here. About half of all sexually active men and women aged 57 to 65 in the United States report at least one bothersome sexual problem. 1/3 report at least 2. Yet doctors rarely address sexual concerns in older adults, particularly in women. And a total of 38% of men and 22% of women reported having discussed sex with a physician since the age of 50. Okay, if half of us are having problems, and 1/3 are having more than one problem, multiple problems, why are only 1/3 of the men and 22% of the women even talking to the doctor? Because we don't think we'll be taken seriously. We don't think the doctor knows. And that's often true. However, I am so optimistic. I want to change the world, and I want you to help me. And one way we're going to do that is by letting our health professionals know that we are still interested in having a good sex life. They look at us, okay, there's someone the age of our son or our grandson, okay, sitting in front of us. We don't know how anyone 15 years old got through medical school, but that's how it looks, right? And we want to ask a question, but what does the doctor say? Usually nothing. If anything, it's maybe, so do you have any questions for me in the last 30 seconds of our appointment? No. I would love to see a few things happen. I would love to see us approach our doctors with something like this. My sexuality is really important to me, and I'm having some concerns. I need some help. I want you to help me. And if you can't help me, refer me to someone who can. In fact, I'm going to ask you to memorize this right now. If you can't help me, please refer me to someone who can. Say that back to me.
If you can't help me, please refer me to someone who can.
If we all said that, can you see how things would change? So why don't the doctors just plain help us? They are as subject to the stereotypes of aging as anyone else in our culture, for one thing. They look at us, they don't see sexual abuse. They see wrinkly older people, older than they are. I just see gorgeous people in front of me, but then I'm not a doctor, I can't help you. Plus, their medical training had probably no more than 1 hour of sexuality, and that's not older age sexuality, that's any kind of sexuality. They don't know anything about older age sexuality unless they have pursued the CECs, gone to lectures and workshops, read the books that are available that will teach them a lot. So if we just insist, look, if you're going to stay my doctor, you need to educate yourself about this, because my sexuality and my emotional health and my sense of well-being, my quality of life, all of this is tied up. It isn't just treating my disease. If I'm having trouble with arousal, or not having erections suddenly, or I get aroused but I can't reach orgasm, or it hurts to have sex, find out what's going on. Now, don't just say use more lubricant. What you said, the itch cream, oh my gosh, what the heck was that person thinking? I've heard of women being told, well, just use lubricant. Well, it does if we don't know that. That's not the thing. Vaginal pain can be caused by any number of things. Can be caused by a pelvic floor muscle problem, that can be treated, that you can learn to relax the vaginal muscles if the contraction without release is what's causing the pain, the inability to relax. And that's a part of it for many women. It can be caused by an infection. It can be caused by irritation from the laundry detergent you're using, or the underpants you're wearing, or there are so many different causes, and you need a specialist. You need a sexual pain specialist, and these people exist. But you need a doctor who's smart enough to say, okay, let me look at my referral list. I think this person would be the next person for you to see. Let me get you a referral. They need to know that it's not enough, for one thing, to treat a problem when you haven't diagnosed it yet. Don't give me a pill, don't give me a cream, when you don't know what's causing the problem. Now, suppose the problem is undependable erections, or erections that just don't happen at all. That's not necessarily actually just a part of getting old. The erections won't be as hard, they won't be as reliable, but if there is a change in you, you've got to get it checked out. You've got to say, run the tests. The doctor says, oh, you have ED. That's not a diagnosis. That's a symptom. That means something is causing it. Something is interrupting the blood flow to the penis. Or maybe other reasons, but that's, an example. So what is it? Run some tests. Erectile problems, and also for women, just lack of being able to get aroused, which is essentially the same thing in the woman's body, can be caused by heart disease, can be caused by diabetes, can be caused by a number of medical conditions that haven't been diagnosed and can be treated. It's like the canary in the coal mine. Do you know that metaphor? The miners used to take in a caged canary down into the mine, and if the canary died, it meant there wasn't enough air and they'd better get the hell out of there. The canary in the coal mine was the first sign that there wasn't enough. So this is for us the canary in the coal mine, that there has been a change in our arousal pattern. So get it checked out, and don't go away without getting the tests run, getting the diagnosis. In one of my other books, I have an example from a woman who was in a relationship with a younger woman. The older woman was in her 60s, I think, and the younger woman in her 50 maybe. And suddenly the older woman was just not interested in sex anymore. Just didn't get aroused, didn't have any, just nothing. She was still in love with her partner, but she didn't ever want to have sex. Well, the younger woman ended up leaving her and just said, I'm not going to do without sex, and she ran off with a friend. Shortly after that, the older woman had a heart attack and was told that she had had undiagnosed heart disease for quite a while. And that was the reason that she had this sudden change in her sexual response. So her takeaway, and she was really grieving this because she really loved this woman, her partner. She said, if I had, and she had gone to the doctor who said use more lubricant. Same thing, use lubricant, use sex toys. Don't bother me with something like that, you're in your 60s. If she had gotten a diagnosis then, not only would she have avoided the heart attack, but she would have kept the partner. So it's so important to get this checked out. And what do? If the doctor isn't any help, well, maybe you break up with your doctor. If your doctor is not taking you seriously as a sexual being, is not seeing that sexuality and quality of life are as important as treating a medical condition, then you need another doctor. And you're in a wonderful county for finding people who do care, who are open to alternatives, to not just alternative medicine, but even within Western medicine. There are people who really care and know what they're doing and make it their job to find out more. I've had a gynecologist who bought a dozen books, one of my earlier books, to give to her patients. And then she came back and bought another dozen, because she had another dozen patients who needed it. She just did that. She said, I need another dozen. books to give out. There are doctors like that, and they're not in the majority at this point. Sometimes when I talk to doctors, I tell them that the way to ask their patients what's going on for them is not to say, do you have any questions about sex? Because you're going to look at that doctor and say, I don't think so, right? But if instead he said to you, how has sex changed for you? Would you be receptive to answering that? I would. So we need to educate our doctors, and once we educate our doctors, they will help to educate the rest of our generation. Now, sometimes what's interfering with your sexual response is a medical condition that you have, as I said, but it's also maybe a medication you're taking, a medication that deadens your sexual response. If you point that out, or the doctor should, or if you say, let me have an appointment with the pharmacist to go over these medications I'm taking and see if we can adjust anything. Often, and in fact I have some information from a pharmacist in this book who talks about the kinds of conditions where the treatments interfere with sex and also specific medications. And sometimes if you are being treated for a particular condition, there's another medication that would do as well, but it won't have the same side effects. And it isn't anything they can necessarily know ahead because we're all affected differently. So a medication that for you deadens your sexual response might not for someone else, and vice versa. So you just have just let them know you've got to try some other things. It also could be a matter of when to time the medications. That can sometimes make a big difference. Okay, I want to stop for a second and see if you have questions before I go on with what I'm interested in, because I want to know what you're interested in. Is there anything you were hoping I would cover tonight?
Well, I have a comment to make.
Okay.
I'm a women's health nurse practitioner. I work at the University of California in the city, and I appreciate what you're saying about the healthcare providers. I do think it's important to not have overwhelming expectations about what we can do when you have a 20-minute appointment.
Yeah.
And we've been trained in the implicit model, which I'm sure you know about, which is to give somebody permission and then to direct them to a resource or whatever. But it's a huge undertaking within that 20 minutes to really do a thorough evaluation of someone's situation and what could be contributing to it. So my question to you is, let's say we have 5 minutes. What would you recommend the healthcare provider do? I feel very fortunate that I work in San Francisco and I can direct people over to Good Vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my strategies. I tell them to go to the library and pick up some books to educate themselves. I tell them to watch a lot of videos. You know, who knows? I mean, there's lots of things, but what would you suggest that we as healthcare providers could do with a very limited time period?
Terrific question. Could you all hear the question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a couple of things. One is to already have some referrals, the sexual pain specialist, the erectile dysfunction specialist, a list of books that would guide them in the right way, a list of websites perhaps. And this isn't anything you have to do on your own. I think your whole community could get this together and not have it be on any single person to do it alone. To know that, for example, if someone is over 50 and is having a sexual problem, this could be a really good resource. Also, yes, the Good Vibrations referral or Pleasures of the Heart here or in Marin in San Rafael, that's great too. So to have some of these resources available, to ask the question, how has sex changed for you lately? So you really know what you're dealing with. And to be free in referring people out to the specialists. Definitely order the tests. Order the tests because people don't know. They think, okay, if I'm having ED, then I should get a pill, right? Prescribe me a pill. And you don't want to jump to that because you don't know what the ED is being caused by. So I think those three things, to have the resources, to feel ready to refer people to other practitioners who are specialists, and to do the diagnosis or to order the tests. Does that help?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I do.
Good. I'll bet you're one of the good ones, because after all, you're here tonight,
Yeah.
right? You're the one who's here tonight. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. Feel free to pass out your cards later, too. Yes.
I'll make a comment. My father, who's no longer with us, he was in his mid-80s. And I was sitting around the kitchen table with my sister and my mother said, I had to cut Dad off. He wanted to have sex twice a week, and I told him, once a week and that's it. You're just too exhausted the rest of the week. And I thought that was just great in his 80s.
Yeah, I hope, okay, so how I would have handled that is to say, I'm up to sex once a week. I mean, if that were true, which it doesn't happen to be. I'm up for sex once a week, but in the other time of week that you want to do it, could I watch you masturbate? That would make me very
Right.
excited.
No, her point was that he was too out of it the rest of the week. He was having strokes and stuff. I mean, it was
Having strokes,
you know,
so it wasn't just that he was going la la
No.
la. Was that a good time?
No.
Oh, okay.
He was too exhausted. He was-
Okay, well.
I thought it was pretty funny. I was amazed she said that to us.
I love it when people talk out loud about
Yeah,
sex,
that's
especially people you did not expect.
Yeah.
And that's one of my missions, to get us to feel free to do that. I don't mean that we all have to talk about how many times a week we have sex or how we do it, but if we at least were used to, for one thing, battling the stereotype, what I call the ick factor, which is that old people having sex, ew, that's icky. You've encountered that, right? It's all over our society. It's in the media, we hear the jokes, the old geezer chasing after sex. Oh, isn't that hilarious? The guy asking his wife to take out her dentures before performing fellatio. Isn't that a riot? Maybe we can say, I don't think that's funny. We are sexual beings. What is so hilarious about that? At what age do you plan to retire your genitals? I've said that to reporters, by the way. They get very flustered and then they never quote me as saying that. I do.
What do they quote you as saying?
They say, quote me as saying a lot, yeah. And this is one place where the older I get, the more people seem to respect what I do at this job, because when I was doing this, I've been doing this for 10 years now. When I was 61, and who would take me seriously, but 71? Oh yeah, maybe we should listen then. Oh, any other things that you hope I'll cover? And then I'll go on to some. Okay. A lot of you said you were single. Who said you're single? Let's do that again. Okay. Single and looking? Single and giving up? Depends on when you ask. Okay. Single stats. This book is not all full of statistics, but that's what I don't remember, so I have to refer to it. 30 million Americans age 55 and older are single. Single women seeking single men. There are only 7 men for every 10 women, age 65 or above. And here's the part that makes me mad. Most of them seem to be looking for younger women. Come, stop
I
it!
know.
Stop it! We are really cool, we older women. We give you a run for your money, seriously. How many of you use online dating? Okay. I give a workshop called How the Heck Do I Date at This Age? I give other workshops too. I give one called Ask Me, I'll Tell You. Let's talk about sex and aging that's mixed gender. I give another one that's just for women, because some women will feel more comfortable that way. And then How the Heck Do I Date at This Age? And I have a clipboard here. If any of you want to be notified about upcoming workshops, sign my clipboard and I'll get in touch and find out which one you're interested in and let you know when we're doing it. Because then we have hours to do this thing. And one of the parts of it is, in the dating workshop, is looking at your online dating profile what's going wrong with it and how can you rewrite it to attract the people that you want, keep away the people that you don't want so you're not overwhelmed with bad matches, but to write it so that you are appealing enough that you're not underwhelmed with no matches. And then the sort of the etiquette of how do you respond and what do you do about the creeps. I write a Q&A column once a month for seniorplanet.org. And the latest one was written by someone whose question was mainly, should I give up on online dating? And she starts by saying that she's having an abysmal time with online dating, that she has had 3 contacts in 3 years, and she's ready to give it up. 3 in 3 years, not exactly a good test. One of them was a total creep. Another one was a total creep. The third one seemed like a very nice guy and she was interested and they had coffee, but he was talking as if online dating was a great social experiment, asking her lots of questions, comparing notes, and didn't seem really interested in her as a date. And she thought, well, this meant that online dating is a failure. Well, you know, the first 2, okay, there are some creeps there and you dismiss them or you report them if they're really bad. One of them should have been reported that she talked about. But the guy that wanted to ask questions about her experiences, I do that too. I always do that. I think that it is a wonderful opportunity not just to get to know somebody else, but to get to know what online dating is like for somebody else and another gender and how they're perceiving it and what they respond to. It's also having that kind of conversation. That can be a sign that, yeah, I know it's not going to work with us. There's no chemistry there and couldn't really tell that till we met. You don't want to say that exactly that way, but that's what's going on. And if you then just see, well, let me make the best of this date. This is an interesting person. I'm not going to say, well, I'm not attracted to you, so let's go home right now, separate homes. But instead to be saying, let's just find what we have to talk about. Let's learn something from this date. I think that's a marvelous idea. She thought that was bad because he wasn't really interested in dating her. Well, most people will not be. Dan Savage, I quote him a lot. He's a sex columnist, and have you heard of Dan Savage? Okay, he says, every relationship fails until one doesn't. And I think that's extraordinary to put it that way. Every relationship fails until one doesn't. Duh, yeah, that's exactly true. So if we are doing this online dating thing and there are going to be a whole lot of people that aren't a match, that's fine. Because we're getting closer to the one or ones that will be a match. You know, if every relationship fails till one doesn't, well, let's get these ones that'll fail over with. And also, you're going to be honing what you're looking for and how you're presenting yourself so that the person you're looking for will know that he or she has found you. Does that make sense? So part of that in my dating workshop is figuring out how to do that, how to present yourself, how to figure out what you're looking for one thing. Because if you don't know, you won't find it. Or you won't know it if you do. So you have to figure out what you're looking for. Figure out how to write your profile so that you are portraying yourself in an appealing way that is truthful, but also narrows down the field. So you're not going to get people that are absolutely not what you're looking for. And then you're going to be drawing the person you are looking for. Let's say this perfect person is scrolling through the profiles and goes, not that, not that one, not that one. What are you saying that's going to make this person stop and go, oh, let me read the rest of that one? So it's all, you know, in a way it's a game, but it's not an adversarial game. It's a sort of a dance game.
Win-win.
It's a win-win. It really is. It really is. And I think that having as a topic of conversation when you do meet someone on a first date, so how's online dating working for you? What have your experiences been? I hear the most interesting stories. My gosh. The person who invited this older fellow to her home on a first date, he's going, well, I don't know, she's young, she's pretty. Why is she inviting me to her home? Turns out she wanted him to catch a rodent. Seriously, that's what it was? She's saying, my bedroom is up there. It was you!
Yeah.
Tell the story, that was you!
Yeah, I met someone on Match.com.
Say it loudly.
I met someone on Match.com. She lived in San Rafael. And the first time we got together, we went out to dinner. I usually don't do that. Somehow she talked me into it.
Can you hear Ed? We can give him a microphone if not. You hear it? Okay, go.
The second time, she invited me to, well, I was going to pick her up. We were going to go out to dinner. And as I walked in with some flowers, she took those and put them down and she said, follow me. And so I followed her, and she walked into her bedroom, and there's a ladder going up to her crawl space. And she said, would you go up there? I'm halfway up the ladder, and she says to me, and take out any rats that you see in the traps.
Oh my God.
And this honestly happened. And I went up there, and there was one rat in the trap that I could reach. So I asked her for a plastic bag, and I got it. I handed it down to her, she put it away, and we went out to dinner, but I never went back.
And I'm so glad you told me that was yours because I'd forgotten who told it to me.
Yeah.
And that's just one of my all-time best dating
One of my
fiasco
all-time
stories.
best.
I know. Anyone else have a dating fiasco story you want to share tonight? Yes, tell us.
Well, yeah, I was on one side of the big island, and I was communicating with someone on the other side, and he wanted to make sure that if we hit it off, I'd be willing to move to his side of the island. And
This is on a first date.
we hadn't met yet.
Oh,
This
okay.
was preliminary to the first date. The first date, he shows up on my doorstep with his dog, and we have to take the dog for a walk. And then he goes to his pickup truck and unloads a big freezer and carries it up to my place and proceeds to have drink after drink after drink right past dinner time. It's like he was preparing to move in and spend the weekend. He had friends on my side of the island. He was going to spend the night with them, but he never called them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so finally I said, well, I'm going to fix myself some soup, and I'll be happy to share some with you. And you better get going.
Good for you. That would, oh my goodness. So the people who are partnered, aren't you feeling lucky right now? Hey, that's a great bad date. Thank you. I love to hear these bad dates. Anybody else want to share a bad date? And we'll move on. Okay, move on. Okay, let's talk sex toys. I love seeing what your faces are telling me, like, or, ah. Okay, so have any of you looked at my blog, which is nakedatrh.com? Okay, one of the many, it's been going for 10 years, and one of the many things I do is senior sex news and views, and one of the things I do is review sex toys from a senior perspective. And what does that mean? What is from a senior, see? You're wondering what that means.
What does that mean?
Senior perspective, what's the point? Okay, listen, we have a long, slow arousal. So the sex toy has to be able to keep vibrating for maybe a really long time without losing its charge or overheating or catching on fire or melting. Because we have sometimes difficulty with arousal and orgasm, we need a sex toy that is really strong, really strong. But We need it to vibrate where we want it vibrating, not in the handle where it's going to hurt our arthritic wrists. I reviewed about 75 of these, and is it okay if I say this, David? I sometimes have the help of my male reviewer, David Piddle, a sex therapist in the area, who reviews the male toys, because there are wonderful male toys too, so yay, you're not left out. I recently was sent one from a company and said, I really want you to review this. It's one of the wand types, but it's a new one, and it's going with the promotion of the 50 Shades of Grey. This is called the Holy Cow 50 Shades of Grey sex toy. Okay, let alone how stupid the name is. I held the thing, turned it on, I thought, no. The vibrations went all the way into the handle. Now, come on, for a slow-burning older woman, I'm not going to be holding this for that long. That's going to hurt. So that's one of the things from a senior perspective. The younger people are not going to notice this. It's not going to take them that long for one. And they're not even going to notice what's happening in their arthritic wrist because they don't have arthritic wrist. So here's another thing about it. We want to be able to read the controls without having to stop and put on our reading glasses. Some of them you can't even see unless you're reading the, oh, that's up and that's down, no wonder. You also want to be able to control the vibrator with lubed fingers because we're using a lot of lubricant. That makes the thing slippery. And if the up, down, and varieties buttons are just like all the rest of the handle, we're not going to be able to tell what we're touching. And we're going to be sadly unhappy if we meant to turn it to high and instead we turned it off. So that's some of it. We also want, and this is not just for our age group, but it's especially important for our age group, we want these sex toys to be made of body-safe materials. Something like silicone or ABS plastic or a material that is medical grade that does not leach chemicals into our body. Well, you're probably thinking, well, none of them do that, do they? Oh, yeah, they do. A lot of sex toys have materials in them that are not allowed in baby toys, that are not allowed in dog toys, but they are allowed in sex toys. Now here's where that's especially important for our age group. We women have thinner vaginal tissues, and to put bad materials, toxic materials, next to our thinning tissues where it's going to be so much easier than when we were younger for those materials to get into our bloodstream, that is just plain wrong. And yet, unless you know what you're buying, and I have a whole section on that in the book, unless you know what you're buying, you may be going with, oh, well, why should I spend $100 on this when I can spend $25 on that, and they look similar because of what they're made of. So I only review toys that have been vetted, that I know are of body-safe materials. I have wonderful people who I trust. I don't run my own chemical tests, but I know people who do. And there's something, if you think, well, the likelihood of any of that bothering my body is so slim. However, Smitten Kitten, which is a sex shop in Minneapolis, isn't that a great name, Smitten Kitten? They're wonderful. They hire me to come speak twice a year, 3 presentations at a time, because they really care, and they don't charge participants. They pay me, but they don't charge participants, which I think is the most amazingly wonderful business model I can imagine. Anyway, they have this big glass jar, and they put what they call the toxic toys in it. They put them in, they seal the jar, and then they watch. Over a period of weeks, these toys melt, they ooze oil, they stick to each other, you look at that and you go, that was supposed to be in my vagina? No, thank you. So it's so important. You don't have to learn all the materials, yes, no, what do you do with this toy, that, this. But if you would follow the ones that are sold by the retailers that care about this, the ones that are on my blog, or that I have reviewed, because I won't review the ones that are of questionable materials. And in fact, before I was as knowledgeable as I am now about that, I remember I did have a review of a toy that I liked a lot because the material was sort of soft and squishy. It was, and Smitten Kitten, in fact, said, I don't think you want to have that one on your blog because that's what we call a jelly toy. And that's made of a particular kind of material that leaches carcinogenic chemicals. And the reason it's so soft and squishy is because of the chemicals that are added to it to keep it soft and squishy. So there are some squishy toys. Those are cushioned, but they have a silicone skin over them, and those are perfectly safe. But something that is squishy and you can see through it, throw it away. Throw it away. And buy something that's good for you. Because sex toys are absolutely wonderful. A well-chosen, well-placed sex toy can be the difference between an orgasm and no orgasm. And it's often that simple. It really is. And especially if our arousal is slow and we're tempted to say, oh, why did I even get started? Because this is taking forever and I might as well just watch Project Runway and have some ice cream. What will keep you going? What will make it go faster? What will make it a totally different experience is a well-chosen, well-placed sex toy. You just will. And I'm not going to ask how many of you use vibrators because it's none of our business. But if you want to tell me afterwards, I'm happy to know that. And I've reviewed about 75. I love some of them. Some I'm indifferent to, but I realize that they would be good for people who maybe don't need as much intensity as I do, or need a gentler touch, or don't. Oh, here's the other thing about the senior perspective. The insertable toys, the ones that go in vaginas, many of us have, because of the thinning tissue and because it is more difficult to accept penetration, we don't want a girthy toy. We don't want this big size queen toy. And yet a lot of the toys that come out, especially the ones that please most of the sex toy reviewers, did you know there's a whole community of sex toy reviewers on the internet? Oh, they're totally fun. Some are really snarky, and they're very informative, a lot of fun to read, but they're young. And as far as I know, I'm the only one of our age who reviews sex toys and admits to the age. There might be some older ones that don't say how old they are. But many of the reviewers that the retailers and the manufacturers are trying to please, because if a reviewer loves a toy, then that's almost instant success if the person has a following. So they often like the big girthy toys. And I will say, no, don't send me anything that's girthy. My limit is this, and many women would prefer this. So send me those toys. I don't even want to see the ones that my age group doesn't want to know about. So that's what that's it. And besides, can you imagine anything more fun than being a sex toy reviewer? Oh no, I have to work now. Call me later. I do get free toys. I don't get paid for doing the frees, but I get the toys free. And last night someone asked me whether doesn't that affect my review. If someone is an affiliate on my blog, for example, wouldn't I tend more to give their toy a good review? No, and that's the arrangement I have with all of my affiliates and advertisers too, is you send me a toy, I'm going to tell the truth, or if I'm indifferent to it, I'm not even going to review it. So realize you may just waste a toy by sending it to me, but if you want my age group to know about it, and I love it, I will tell them about it. If I think they would love it, even though I don't, I will tell them about it. If I hate it, I probably won't write a snarky review, Although I have been known to break that because some of the toys I'm said are just so damn stupid, I can't help myself. I mean, there's one that, okay, imagine this. First of all, it's plugged into the wall, but you have 3 different cords before you get to between vibrator and wall. It plugs into this, which plugs into that, which plugs into the wall. Don't ask me what. Then, the shape of it is like this giant black plastic light bulb. And then over that goes a bubble gum pink dildo. And then you turn it on and the whole thing shakes. Shakes. Doesn't just vibrate, shakes. And you're trying to hold on to it. And it was just such a bad excuse for sex toy that I had to make fun of it. I couldn't help myself. But usually if I think one is bad, I'll just tell whoever sent it to me, no, we're not interested in this. Now the difference is, though, if people are buying it because it's so heavily promoted and I have to warn you about it, I will definitely do that. All in all, I love my job. I get to talk about sex, I get to write about sex, I get to hear people's stories, I get to help people. Last night at Good Vibrations, a couple walked in, and the moment they saw me, they said, we just want to thank you for saving our sex life. Yeah, that's why I do this work. So I am open to more questions now. Or comments.
The question
Okay.
that I always get is, I have no libido.
Yeah, okay. And this you get from women. Okay. This is the funny thing about that. That if we make this one change, it's going to make an enormous difference. And that one change is this. We used to think we had to be first in the mood, and then feel desire, and then get aroused, and that was the progression of having sex. It needs to be the other way around a lot of the time now. That if things are working physiologically, if we are able to get aroused once we get started, everything works, but we don't feel like it, we're not in the mood, get started anyway. Once the arousal starts happening, the physiological arousal starts happening, then we will feel the desire and be in the mood. It goes the opposite direction from the way it used to. If we just get used to that and do sort of a Nike slogan, well, then just do it. Just do it. And I told you that having sex solo or partnered once a week, at least once a week, is best for health benefits. That doesn't mean limit it to once a week. If you want to do twice a week or 3 times a week or 4 or twice a day, go ahead. But it's so easy if we let it go to recapture it again. Because we really totally forget to have sex. We get out of the mood and it just doesn't occur to me we haven't had sex in 3 weeks. So I advise us to put it on the to-do list. Every week it's on the to-do list. In fact, write it in twice so that if life interferes and you can't get to one of them, at least you've done your once a week. And that can make an enormous difference to people who think they have to wait for libido to strike. The more we do it, the more we'll want to do it. That's the other part of it. We'll go ahead and do it and think, oh, why don't I do this more often? Yeah, you know what we're talking about. This really feels good. So let's do it more often and it will feel even better. We will have more blood flow. We will have easier arousal. We will have easier orgasms if we just do it more often. So that's the best piece of advice that I have for that. Yes, you had
A comment. One of the co-founders of OkCupid wrote a book called Dataclism. He's talking about big data, but he's using OkCupid data for most of his examples. And he's got 2 very interesting graphs in it of age of women and the preferred age of men to women want. And it turns out that women, when they're very young, want men who are just a few years older. And by the time they're 50, they want men who are just a few years younger. You women track pretty well.
And what do the men track?
24, sharp, straight down.
They just want a 24-year-old, no matter how old they are?
Earlier, they want a little bit younger than that, but by the time you hit 24, you don't want anything after that.
Oh.
Nothing, sorry, so I'm sorry you're out, you know. I'm very glad for this, by the way. The more men who feel that way, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Because then that leaves the year, yeah, right,
Target, yeah.
yeah.
But unfortunately, the research stops at age 50.
What? I have to have a talk with him.
Go for it.
Thank you. We'll do that.
It's an excellent book, by the way.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, I knew he'd written it, but I haven't read it.
Very, a lot of fun. I mean, he's talking about computers and big data and all that stuff, and he's talking about sex at the same time.
Okay. Wow, okay, I'm gonna have to talk to him about the cutoff age because, okay, Cuba doesn't have a cutoff age of 50, not whatsoever.
Right.
There are plenty of people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and probably beyond. Yeah. What else? What would you like to contribute or ask?
I think arousal oils are helpful.
Yeah, if you don't have problems with pelvic pain, if you do, best not to use the arousal oils because they can be an irritant. But I personally love the arousal oils. The arousal oils will have an ingredient in it that is, it's almost a sting, but in a good way. It just sort of increases sensation.
Yeah, I would say that to the practitioner over there.
Yeah,
I think that's really a big help for me. It's huge. I mean, I don't even need foreplay when I use that. I mean, it's just like,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, which kind do you use?
a couple of them, but what's the name of it? Tell me
There-
their names.
There's Wow Max is my particular favorite. There's Blossom Organics has an arousal gel. There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
The brand name On has an arousal gel. Some of them, you look at the ingredients, and once you've found one you like, go ahead and stick with it. But don't try, if you have any sexual pain, don't use arousal gels. Don't use the heating and the cooling lubricants either, because they can be irritants if you're subject to irritation or subject to infection or subject. Usually they're fine. I'm not saying they're bad. I use them. And I love the cooling lubricants too. I think they really feel good. Other people like the heating, other people don't like either of those. There's a lot on lubricants in the book too, including what kind to choose, water-based, silicone, oil-based. I don't know if you know that there's just so much. You can't use silicone lubricant with silicone toys. If you're not using silicone toys, the silicone lubricant is best. It's the most cushioning. You can't use oil-based with condoms. Water-based is thinner and can dry out faster. So sort of, okay, in the book I have this, what are you using it for and what are you using it with? What or whom are you using it with? And just to help break it down a little bit. You can also get lubricant samplers from a lot of the sex toy stores. And that's a great way to find out what you'll like. That's a great way to do it. You have something, David?
Yeah. You said don't use oil with condoms,
Yeah.
but with female condoms, you can.
Oh, with female condoms because they're not made of
nitrate.
latex.
And they have a lot of advantages.
Do you know what a female
The
condom
female
is?
condom, the FC2, is accepted like internationally and is distributed. I don't know. It does what? I mean, you can buy them.
Let me explain what it is first, and then.
Yeah, okay.
Here's your point.
The female condom. Did you want to tell me?
Yeah, I'll do that. So female condom is very unlike the male condom. It's called female condom. It shouldn't be called that. It should just be called receptive condom, because it can be used in a vagina, it can be used in an anus. It doesn't have to be a female using it. There are gay men who really like the receptive condom for anal sex. Anyway, what it is it turns the vagina into a protected tunnel.
Gotcha.
It is a tube with a little ring at the bottom and a big ring at the top. So here's this tube. It's long. It has a little ring. You insert it, you squeeze the little ring, and then that lets you put it in. You insert it much like the diaphragms of yesteryear. Okay? And then once you let it go, it sort of navigates itself to the right place and stays there. The big ring stays outside the vaginal opening. So now what you've got is you, as a woman, are protected, and the advantages of this is the woman is in charge of whether or not you use condoms. And a lot of guys will say, I can't use a condom because I lose my erection if I try to put on a condom. Deflating. So no, you don't have to put on a condom. I've put on a condom, we're all set. And you don't even have to be hard. You want to rub against me soft, that's fine. We are having safer sex with this. And it's quite marvelous. You can put it in ahead of time. The directions say you can put it in hours ahead of time. Just leave it until you use it. But you know what? What they don't consider in those directions is we have to pee before sex, right? And you try to pee with that thing in, you make a big mess. So what you have to do is sort of twist it to the side and get it, the big ring out of the way. So I wouldn't say put it in hours before. I would say pee, then put it in, and then you can relax and have as much foreplay as you want, even hours of foreplay if you want, as long as you don't have to pee again. And then it's ready when you are. Then when you're done, when your partner has ejaculated, you just twist that. You've got the big ring on the outside. You just twist it so nothing comes out. Take it out, tie it in a knot, throw it away, knock down the toilet, put it in the trash, and there you are. It's terrific. However, I have to warn you, it is so darn funny looking. You look at this vagina that has a plastic ring and tubing disappearing in there, and it really is funny looking. So go ahead and laugh, get past that and use it. The sensation is really good, better than the male condom, and it is just so easy. What would you like to add to that, David?
Well, there are a couple of things. One, because it's made of nitrile, the sensation is warming rather than cold.
Yeah.
And so it's good for the man and the woman both, much better. And the second thing is the big ring on the outside, for most women, will touch the clitoris, so that all the movement will also excite the clitoris, which is the point anyway.
I actually don't like the feeling of the big ring, but you know, just
Everybody's
aside,
different, but
I know, but I know many women do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take it out immediately.
Right.
You know,
That's
you
right.
take it out when it's convenient.
Yeah.
I would argue not to throw it in the toilet.
No, I said that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
misunderstood.
I said not in the toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm glad we clarified that in case someone else didn't hear it.
And it's better protection for herpes.
Yes, that's right, because it covers more area. That's right. Yeah. A good point. And in case you think that we singles don't need to use barrier protection, we do. The over 50s, you know I'm standing up on a step here, that's why you can see me over this podium. People over 50 are the fastest growing population for new HIV infections.
Wow.
Yep. Not only that, but other STDs, chlamydia, gonorrhea, they're rampant in our age group because we think we don't need to use barrier protection. I mean, look around. Someone like you couldn't have an STD, so why should I? We can't get pregnant anymore. We're not used to having to deal with this. Many of us who were in relationships and now we're newly out of a relationship and beginning to date again and beginning to have sex with other partners again. We're just not used to the idea that barrier protection really has to be a part of what we do. It just does. And I have a lot of information in my book about why we need to do it and some fun ways to bring up the conversation, how to have the condom conversation in a way that is low stress and has a little creativity and sense of humor. You do need to bring it up though. Don't assume that the other person is going to take care of it. Very often not. I've had people say to me, I'm a swinger, I'm a bisexual swinger, I have sex with men and women, I have had the last 20 partners, have not insisted on a condom. And then on the other hand, I have people who say, I just use it automatically. There's one man who is a swinger and likes to have sex with a lot of partners. He uses barrier protection for everything. He uses condoms. He uses either the female condom or he uses the male condom. He uses gloves. He uses dental dams for cunnilingus. And he says, I haven't had sex without a condom for 30 years. And he's fine with that. He says the way he keeps it erotic is that he masturbates with a condom on, so that even his fantasies are clad in condoms. He says he just doesn't even have sex with himself without a condom, because he doesn't want to ever feel, ooh, I wish I could, if I could only. He just wants the condom itself to be, oh boy, I'm going to have sex. And I think that's a great idea. We just have to, and if you're a woman and you're dating, have your own condoms. Don't expect that the guy is going to bring them if you're in a heterosexual dating situation. Don't expect that. You can say, okay, this is what I have. Do you have some you like better? Did you bring your own, or would we use these?
Where do you even buy female condoms?
You can get them, actually, they're available in regular drugstores now. Yeah. They're called the FC2 female condom second generation. The first generation, which I tried, which is a number of years ago, felt like having sex in a shower curtain. It was plasticky, it was noisy, it was just so funny. I tried that once, and my partner and I were just laughing so hard we totally lost any sexual drive. But the new ones are just so totally different, made of totally different material. You can also get them from a sex shop. What they advise is that you start with 3 of them. You try one on your own just to get the practice of inserting it and how that works, how that feels, so that you don't totally kill the mood when you're trying to do it with a partner. And then you use the second one as your first trial and the third one to see if you like it, because you will by then. But it takes a little more learning curve than the male condom. It's a great thing. Do you think I should stop?
Yeah, I think we should get to some signing.
Oh,
We can
okay.
continue the conversation up here, right?
Okay,
They
sure
come
we
up with
can,
their own stuff,
sure we
right?
can. So if you're interested in knowing about my workshops, I hope you'll sign my clipboard, and I hope you'll take a postcard. And we really hope you'll buy the book and let me sign it for you. There's so much more in there. We just, I maybe scratched 10 pages of what's in this 400-page book. So I know you'll learn a lot. And thank you. I really appreciate you came through this weather to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.